of different stuff in it. That makes sense. So what we're going to go through today is my fantasy football team, my prediction for the Premier League, and a little chat about the transfer deadline day signings and everything that's kind of happened there. So it's now 7 o'clock on Thursday evening, which means the fantasy football team is done and dusted for the weekend. I believe it was 7 o'clock was the deadline. 5 o'clock was the deadline for the transfers, although you always get a few kind of go through afterwards. We kind of can go down here and have a look at some of them, but there wasn't a lot going on today, was there? I don't think in the transfer kind of stuff. It's certainly some interesting ones, and some of the kind of mid to lower like teams in the Premier League made quite a few signings, but I think we'll still hear a few go through, but it doesn't look like any major signings, especially not for the likes of Tottenham, who I still believe have not actually signed a player this season, or at least a player of note. Let's just confirm that. Tottenham, no, they have not signed a player this season. Has a Premier League club ever never not signed a player in a season? Like, that has got to be, for me, that sounds like that's a first. Certainly, I certainly got to imagine a first for a top 4 club to not strengthen their team. Now, you could argue that Spurs have actually got pretty good depth in their team, and etc, etc, but and they could come out the gates pretty fast because they, their team knows each other. There's no one new to integrate or whatever. But also a little bit of fresh blood does, keep up the competition for places and add something different. So it's going to be an interesting season for Spurs, isn't it? Really, we didn't see Man United bring in anyone. They seem to be going for every single centre back in the country, or sorry, not just the country but the world. Just had a big list working our way down. There's rumours of Godin, Alderweireld, Maguire, just loads. They seem to be going for. How much of that is true, I've no idea, but they didn't manage to get one, at least at this time. So looks like they're going into their season with kind of, Phil Jones, Chris Smalling, Eric Barley and Lindelof, which, I'm going to be honest, I don't see Man United mounting a title challenge, but it's a long old season, isn't it? Lots to go. Crystal Palace apparently are going to be signing Jordan Ayew. We're just kind of waiting for a little bit of it to be confirmed and stuff like that. Alongside Gorito as a goalkeeper, Czech Kyoto, Max Meyer, and if we got Ayew, I think that's a decent window for us. The most important thing, and I will stress this, it's like signing 10 players, is keeping Zaha. I think a lot of the, shall we say, smaller clubs in the Premier League have this short transfer window to thank for being able to hold on to a lot of their players. Leicester probably aside, they obviously lost Mahrez, but that was a kind of a done deal back in the summer, wasn't it, really? Sorry, back in the January transfer window. We're in summer now. So, yeah, and other than that, a lot of the lower kind of Premier League clubs, outside the top 8, shall we say, didn't really have their players poached as they often can do sometimes. The exception, I guess, Richarlison, but Jesus, Everton paid for him, didn't they? And yeah, that was kind of it. So it definitely worked in the favour of the smaller clubs in the Premier League to have this shorter transfer window, especially coming off the back of a World Cup. And it didn't work out for a few of the bigger clubs. I think Liverpool did good business. I think Man City didn't really need to do too much, and they signed a player who I think is going to do well for them, and a few youngsters as well. Daniel Asani is very well thought of. I think he went to the World Cup with the Australia team, and he's only like 18 or something, but he's very highly rated. But yeah, I don't think Man City really needed to do too much in their team. Liverpool really strengthened their side, and that's a real statement of intent build they've got. I mean, I've gone through this really. Leicester did add a few players in, Benkovic and Soyuncu, who funnily enough, we signed in my FIFA career mode, who was a decent young defender. And Huddersfield made some, strong signings. Strong as in, like, they made a few, and they're solid players. Fulham, I think, definitely of the promoted clubs, did the best business. They signed some quality players. They spent a lot of money, Fulham. We'll get back to Fulham though at some point when we do our prediction for the table. Chelsea, well, I mean, what's there to say about Chelsea really? Probably, I know Chelsea fans might disagree with me here, but I would say they had their worst transfer window probably since Abramovich joined. In terms of net spend, in terms of like the deals they made, the players they got. I mean, listen, Jorginho is a decent player. Yusuf Vasari makes sense, good signing. Robert Green, I mean, whatever. It's a nothing transfer, to be honest with you. It doesn't even really matter. Kovacic coming in from Real Madrid on loan. I feel like he's a little bit overrated, a little bit, as in he has promised much and not really delivered. It could be Chelsea's the place for him to do that, so it could be inspired, but it is only a loan deal, so even if he has the season of his life, Real Madrid can't really lose out there, can they? They weren't going to play him this season anyway, probably, and they've still got 2 weeks to replace him if they need to. And then there's the goalkeeper situation. So Courtois was sold to Real Madrid. I don't know how much, undisclosed. The rumours are it was about 35 to 40 million, which seems an incredibly low amount of money. I understand that he was on his second to last year of a contract, so your value will go down there, but when you see players like Allison come in for 68, and when you see that how much they pay for his replacement in Kepa Arrizabalaga, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, it's called in Kepa, or Keeper, they had to pay 71 million, I think it was, because that's his release clause. Now, listen, I don't think there was much Chelsea could do in this situation. It was kind of like Arsenal and Sanchez. It was like, we have to make the best of a crap situation here, in that with Sanchez he was going to go for a free, and they managed to get a player out of it who they think is going to improve them. Chelsea, they had a player who clearly didn't want to be there anymore. He wanted to get out, he wanted to go to Real Madrid. He was clearly making signs that way, and I don't think he would have been happy to have been their goalkeeper this season, even if they'd have put their foot down and said, nope, you're not going anywhere. I think even Chelsea kind of acknowledged that this is not probably going to be a vintage season, as in this is going to be a rebuilding season for them, or a building season. And I think maybe Courtois was just like, yeah, time to go. Now we know that he's lived in Madrid before because he used to play at Atletico. He went on loan there and he did well. So I guess it makes sense, like it makes sense. The people who really won out of this deal was Man United, because now Real Madrid are obviously not going to be chasing De Gea, are they? My personal opinion on it is it's a weird one. I never felt like Real Madrid needed a new goalkeeper. I thought Keylor Navas would see them through another couple of seasons. I mean, they've won 3 Champions Leagues with him. Doesn't seem to me like he's a bad keeper, right? But I guess that's what they wanted. Lopetegui, I guess the new head coach there, he wanted Courtois. He got Courtois. I think they want Hazard as well. And I think that while it's not a reason for signing Courtois, I think it might help facilitate a move next summer for Hazard. So I'd watch out for that one, Chelsea fans. Just to add insult to injury, maybe. And Chelsea paid a lot of money for this young goalkeeper from Bilbao, he's had some good seasons, but obviously fairly unproven at the highest level. Certainly not in the Premier League either. Spain's number 2 to De Gea, who might even be number 1 soon if De Gea keeps his form up with Spain. And they had to pay a lot of money, and it's not necessarily their fault. I think with the amount of time they had left to sign a keeper, I think Monday, Tuesday that Courtois was not gonna, give up on this move, and so I think they just thought, right, we just need to cut our losses on that, get him out of the club before he kind of poisons the dressing room, or does something even stupid like goes on strike or something like that, and then they really don't have a goalkeeper, and just cut their losses on him and say, see you later, we'll try and get as much money as we can for you, and then we'll sign a goalkeeper for the future. And they've done that. So yeah, okay, I don't think it's a vintage transfer window for them in any way. I don't think it's as bad as some people make out. Like on paper, when you see Courtois left for like 35-40 million or whatever it is, even if it's 50 million, it's still a loss, and they bring in this other guy for like 70 million, because that was what his clause was, and Bilbao weren't going to sell him otherwise. And it doesn't look great on paper, does it? Like, I don't think there's anybody who can say that, but paper is paper and reality is reality, and if you have a player who doesn't want to be there, then sometimes you just have to cut your losses and take the money and move on, because there's no player that's irreplaceable, there really isn't. Even the greatest of the greats are not irreplaceable, and I mean that in a sense of, if Messi wanted to leave Barcelona and was making life difficult, and Barcelona were like, we're not going to sell him, like, there's no way he'd be the same player, would he? So in Courtois' kind of, in that reasoning, I personally think he is perhaps not endeared himself to Chelsea fans very well, shall we say, with this whole thing, but I guess sometimes you have to do what's right for you, and I think I heard his family were in Madrid as well and stuff like that, and I guess sometimes you've just got to do what you feel is right, and I think he felt like the move to Real Madrid was the right move, and there was not much Chelsea could do there. So on paper that's not a great, doesn't look like a great one, and I still think Chelsea are a bit weak this season. They've got this guy Hudson Odoi who is very highly thought of, played very well in the Charity Shield despite Chelsea not playing very well. But I think it's going to be an interesting season for Chelsea, because we've seen over the years that Abramovich has been ruthless with his managers, like any sort of underachievement, in a season, and he will just cut them loose. But I feel like that might be changing slightly now, because there has to be an acknowledgement that Sarri has not got in the players he would have wanted. I don't think that anybody could argue and say, no, Sarri's completely happy with this transfer window, what's happened at Chelsea. I'm sure there's certain elements he's very happy with, the fact that he kept Hazard, the fact that they got Jorginho, Kovacic as well. I'm sure he's pretty happy that he's got him. But without a doubt, he would have wanted more players in. There's I guess most managers do in a way, but I'm sure he would have wanted more. So I think, is this going to be one where we see maybe perhaps if Chelsea don't necessarily compete, shall we say, for the title, and I don't see them competing for the title, but perhaps if they are showing signs of improving, because I had this feeling they're going to have a slow start, okay, and then they're going to improve as the season goes on. That's my feeling, based upon the fact that Sarri has had slow starts in the past with his teams before they get used to it. The fact that he's come in very late to the team. I mean, that was not his fault. That is Chelsea's fault. They didn't sort the Conte situation out as well as they should have. And that meant that Sarri didn't come in till later, and he hasn't had long to work with his squad, and a lot of the squad have been away because of World Cup duty anyway. So it's been the perfect storm for Chelsea, hasn't it, really? That what could have gone wrong kind of has gone wrong in a way, but there are positives there, definitely. They're not going to be like, bottom half of the table struggling against relegation, are they? They've still got a very good side out there with some very good players, but I don't think they're going to have enough to challenge this season, and so it would be interesting to see what the expectation levels of the club is on Sarri. Is that going to be acceptable if they see some sort of growth there? I hope so, because this kind of model they've had where they constantly replace, chop and change managers, to get that kind of new bounce of a manager and get that win. It can't go on forever. You know, you've got to have a bit of stability there. So we'll see. It'll be an interesting season for Chelsea. Very interesting. They're a team I think a lot of people need to keep an eye on. We saw Cardiff get in Ariata on loan in the transfer deadline. I think that was the one. If we kind of go through here, we can kind of see. So, yeah, Man City announced Danjo Arzani. He's 19 now, is he? Chelsea announced Kepa. West Ham signed Lucas Perez from Arsenal. That's an interesting one, isn't it? We never really saw Lucas Perez for Arsenal at all, did we? He was kind of one of those weird, like, last-minute panic buy signings for Arsenal, and they just ended up never using him. So, you know, Leicester signed Filip Benkovic, as I've already said, a decent young central defender. I have a feeling that they've signed these two central defenders thinking Maguire's going to be leaving in the summer. I think that's something they've thought of, and they can get these guys in. They can have Maguire this season, and I don't think Maguire seems like the sort of guy who will agitate a move, but I have a feeling it could be a kind of Mahrez situation where if he has a really good season, there might be some sort of agreement where it's like, look, just play this season for us, and then you can go for, you know, a fee at the end of the season. And if he does have a good season with Leicester, then that could work to their advantage. You know, rather than that, and if they've got two young defenders to come in to replace him, fair play. I've said this problem about Leicester before, though, that, you know, Lightning, it's very difficult to make it strike twice. So, you know, the fact that they got these like cut price deals for like Kante, Mahrez, Vardy, you know, that's difficult to repeat, and some of the signings they made haven't quite had the impact they would have wanted. But they are a club which is never going to be able to hold on to these sort of, you know, players like Mahrez, and although I think Vardy's just signed a new 4-year contract, so fair play. Man United didn't get anyone in. Cardiff have signed Camareza from Real Madrid. Wolves got Leander Dendoncker, who seems like a really good signing. Initial season-long loan, becoming a permanent deal next summer. He's like a defensive midfielder who can also play in defence as well. I think Palace are after him as well, but I think that's a decent signing for Wolves. I said that they needed to shore up their defence a little bit in my earlier preview, and I think that will go away to doing that. Everton just went mental. They just went mental, didn't they, Everton? They just signed loads of players. Just went, oh, that guy's available, sign him, that guy's available. They haven't even got down here all the guys, I don't think, who they signed. So they got Bernard from Shakhtar Donetsk. That's a weird one. Bernard was the next big thing, wasn't he? He really was. It kind of fell off a little bit. You see a kind of what would be the word? A kind of pattern here with Chelsea. Like, they seem to be signing players who could be the next big thing, or players who perhaps aren't quite they're you know, who have had promising starts and then dipped down, because they also got Andre Gomez from Barcelona on loan, who was very, very good at Valencia and then just completely fell off a cliff at Barcelona. Didn't work out. So if they can get him going and they can get Bernard back on track, then who knows? They also got Mina from Barcelona, the massive Colombian centre back, who I don't rate him as a defender, but I think he's a very good player to have, because listen, he's not like the John Terry of defenders. You know, he's not like positionally brilliant or anything like that. Like, Sanchez covered for him a lot in that Colombia team, but as a weapon going forward and as an aerial threat, defensively and attacking, he's quality. And they needed a defender. I don't know if they needed him. Like, yeah, I don't know how that signing is going to go for them. West Ham's also signed Carlos Sanchez from Fiorentina. After the town got Isaac Mbenza on loan. West Ham went mental as well. They've just brought everybody. Yeah, it's crazy. Fulham signed a goalkeeper. Sergio Rico joins on loan. Fulham also signed Joe Bryan as well, 24-year-old left back from Bristol City. Newcastle got Federico Fernandez from Swansea City. Swansea kind of lost out a bit, didn't they, today? They lost a few players. Leicester got Caglia on there. So nothing majorly seems to be announced yet. The biggest move kind of being done earlier by Liverpool and the Mahrez move, and then the deal today for not today maybe, but the whole Chelsea goalkeeper situation. So interesting, and I think that Fulham have ended up spending a lot of money this season. Somebody they apparently are going to be signing, but maybe it's not quite announced today. They spent another 22 million on Anguissa, the midfielder. So yeah. Oh, hang on, it's just been confirmed. I got it on my phone that Ayew has joined Crystal Palace on a season-long loan. Okay, I'm okay with the loan. I think, being a Palace supporter, I was a bit iffy about him coming in because he's a player who, if he's one of those players, I think if you looked at his highlight reel, he looks really good. He doesn't seem to always do it, but I think he's a really good option for us because he can play as a striker and he can play as an attacking winger. So, like, as cover for those areas, like, he should see some games. He should be all right. And Fulham have also got Luciano Vieto on loan as well. That's breaking news as of like 20 minutes ago. Brighton have signed 27-year-old right back Martin Montoya for Valencia. Okay, interesting. Yeah, that seems to kind of be about it so far. So, I know what you're all thinking. You're all thinking, Phil, let's get to the fantasy football, please. Okay, so my team for the first weekend is we have De Gea in goal. At the back, Van Dijk, Trippier, Van Aanholt, Alexander-Arnold, Sane, Sanchez, Son, Aguero, Zaha, Benteke. Okay, so let me explain this team. We have David De Gea in goal. Certainly the goalkeeper last season got the most points. The way Mourinho plays suits clean sheets. He also makes a lot of saves and he gets a lot of points. I think it's a slight no-brainer perhaps to get him in goal. Van Dijk, I think, is going to be a threat going forward, in the air for set pieces, and I think Liverpool will be much improved this season at the back. Alexander-Arnold, his set piece delivery is really good. He does take corners and free kicks as well, so I'm hoping he's going to get a few points there. Van Aanholt from Palace, I've included 3 Palace players, more than any other club. I just have this feeling Palace are going to do well this season. I don't know why, I'm just optimistic for once. But Van Aanholt, I thought towards the second half of last season was one of the best left backs in the league. Like, he was just stonking it. He really was. Down that left side with his Zaha just in front of him was really, really potent. Very attacking, not perhaps the most defensive, and I don't know how many clean sheets Palace are going to keep. We should do alright though, now that our players are fit. We should have a decent goalkeeper. The Tompkins-Sacco partnership in central defence is good, so I'm hoping we do keep some clean sheets. And Trippier, again, we've seen his set-piece delivery, phenomenal. Free kicks, corners, anything really, even penalties, I think. So I think he's going to be buzzing coming off the back of the World Cup. Then in midfield, Sane. Sane and Sanchez both in there because number one, they're both very good players, but number two, they didn't have a World Cup, so I think they're going to be fresh going in. I think Sane's gonna come up trumps this season. He had a very good season last season. I think he's going to push on this season. The one thing about Man City players is they obviously are good, but they rotate a lot, so there are some weeks where he won't play, I think. Pretty sure of that, in fact, so that could be iffy. But Sanchez, I think, is going to play a very important role. He played most of Man United's pre-season, he was pretty much the only first team player that didn't go to the World Cup for them, or at least good first team player. And he looked sharp, and I think this is going to be his season for Man United. I don't necessarily think Man United as a team are going to do brilliantly, but I think he will have a very good season. Son, again, I think is an underrated player. He was, how much did he cost? 8.5. I think that's a good price for him. He gets a lot of goals. And the thing about Tottenham is they didn't sign a player. I don't think I mentioned that, but they did not sign a player. I did mention it, but they didn't sign a player. So these guys should get games, right? Because who else are they going to put in? He did go to the World Cup, so I don't know if he's going to start. But I think South Korea went out at the group stages. There they did. So he didn't have as long a World Cup as some of the others, hopefully. That's my theory. Benteke. I know, Benteke. I'm an idiot, I know. But, listen. This guy, he's done well pre-season. He can't be as bad as last season. We haven't really signed a replacement for him. I guess maybe Ayu or Sorloth could do the job, but I think Roy's got faith in Benteke. He's had a good pre-season. He's looked fit and firing, and playing alongside this guy Zaha, who for me I think is going to be a steal at 7 million for him. Like Benteke's 6.5 for Christ's sake. If Zaha stays fit this season, this is a massive season for him. I saw a lot in like the forums and like Twitter and all that about big Cubs fans like Chelsea fans, Tottenham fans, Arsenal fans, clubs who are linked with him, saying, "Oh, he's not worth that money. He's not worth it." When people are quoting like 67 million, 60, 70 million. Trust me, he's worth it. Like, the thing is, if you're playing in a team where, and let's face it, Crystal Palace were not the best team last season. We really picked up towards the end of the season. Our form was actually top 6 for the second half of the season. It had to be. We lost our first 7 games and didn't score a goal, for Christ's sake. But trust me, this guy, he is special. How he fits into one of those top teams, I don't know, and I think that's more the question. But Palace have been playing him pre-season as a more of a striker sort of situation. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how he goes, because a lot of people are like, how comes Zaha counts as a forward but Salah counts as midfielder? It's a good question. I don't really know, but I think Zaha played most of last season as more of a striker role than he did as a midfielder. He just kind of floats around, He's just phenomenal. Honestly, it's made my season that I'm going to get to see him in a Crystal Palace shirt for another season. And he didn't seem to want to leave, There's all these newspaper reports. Oh, Zaha's told his teammates he wants to leave. He wants to join Chelsea. Yeah. All I saw was him smiling every day in training, playing in all the pre-season games, enjoying life. Was never going to happen, I don't think. I'm not saying that he's going to be there after this season. I think eventually he will step up to a higher level, and I think he will go on to be a superstar, and I think people will be gutted that they didn't sign him this season for 70 million. And I know that I seem like just a crazy Crystal Palace fan, like, oh, everyone thinks their player's so much better, but honestly, he is special as a player. Not just from an ability point of view, but when you look at players, so take somebody like Shaqiri, okay, everybody knows he has a lot of talent, okay, but Shaqiri's a player who will play very well when your team's playing well. Zaha's the type of player who will drag your team up. He will do something. He will keep on going. He will keep on working. He's got the skill of a Shaqiri, but he has the work rate and the ethic and the never give up attitude that I think will take him further, and that endears him to the Palace fans. It really does. I said in my kit review video that if he stays, I'll probably get a shirt with his name on, and I think I probably will. I haven't brought a Palace shirt for 10 years probably. season. And Sergio Aguero looked good in the Charity Shield. I think he will start against Arsenal. I haven't got an Arsenal player in the side, as you see, because I think that Man City are going to put him on toast. I'm very tempted to put Aubameyang in because I think he's going to have a good season as well. I don't think Arsenal are going to have a bad season. I just think Man City are going to toast him, going to roast and toast him. And so Aguero's in there as well. On the bench, Stenkelberg. It's just the cheapest sub-keeper I could get, 4 million. Probably won't play a game. They've got Rui Patricio, Wolves have. Jorginho is he's good. He's more of a defensive midfielder, and they don't tend to get a lot of points in fantasy football, like Kante, for example. But he was 5 million, and that seemed like a good price. Zanka, or Mathe, why is he called Zanka? I don't get it. I don't know that well, but cheap defender. Got some good points last season, 107. Could be useful to drop in. And Mark Noble. Got 84 points last season. I think he was injured for a big part of it though. But he's a guy who takes penalties and things like that, so he can get some points. And again, 5 million, so cheap, basically. So that's my team. Let me know what you think. Let me know what your team is. Now, you might be thinking, like, you don't have Salah, you don't have Kane. What are you doing, you idiot? You might have a point with Salah, but he's bloody expensive. He's really expensive. I could be regretting it. Like, Liverpool have got West Ham, and they could rip them apart. They really could. So, yeah, I might regret it, but he's so expensive. And Kane, I looked at Kane and I went, he looked like he was carrying an injury in the World Cup. Like, he looked like he was exhausted. He literally became a father, I think, yesterday, so congratulations to him there. And, I just thought maybe this is not going to be the start for him. And he's got that terrible record in August, doesn't he, of not scoring. I don't think that's I think that's just coincidence, but it kind of adds up to being like, maybe I won't put Kane in there. Just have interest. How many people have got Zaha? 31%. That's a high percentage. Aguero, 27. So more people have got Zaha than Aguero. Sanchez, 8. Only 8% have got Sanchez. Interesting. 15% have got Sane. How many have got Benteke? 1. Trust me, he's had a good season. I think he's going to come up with the goods this season. 15% for Trent Alexander, 5% for Patrick Arnold, 26% for Trippier. That's quite high. 17% for Virgil van Dijk, 29% for De Gea. So, Zaha's the most selected player in my team. I think people have got that right. How many have got Jorginho? 8. Zanka, 10. Noble, 0.5. Stenkelberg, 4.4. Well, how about that? Oh, sorry, he's not Wolves, he's Everton, isn't he? Sorry. Yeah, because he's not going to get a game because Pickford, but he's cheap. So, Benteke's the lowest. Yikes. He did not have a good season last season, but I believe he can turn that around this season. I believe in him. So yeah, that's what we've got. We got the games going forward. I'm going to do a video probably on Monday then about these games, and then maybe the following Tuesday, Jesus Christ, got to play Liverpool. So I'm going to do weekly videos on this fantasy football league. Now, as the final thing to do, let's do the Premier League predictions, shall we? So, let's start at the top, and then we'll do. Let's start at the top because I know who I think is going to win it. Okay, I think Man City's going to win it. I don't think that should be a surprise to many people. I think Liverpool will come second. It wouldn't surprise me if Liverpool did win the league, but I'd say it's like 60-40 in favour of City against Liverpool, shall we say, at the minute. Looking at their signings and the team and last season and stuff like that, I think Liverpool were the most informed team at the second half of the season, but Man City weren't exactly bad, were they? They did win the league at a canter, so we'll see. Third place, this is a tough one, isn't it? Because Man United have clearly not done the business they want. Tottenham, again, haven't. Arsenal are in a bit of a new phase. you bet against Man United? I don't think you do. I think Man United, even though they haven't signed the players they wanted, they still have a very talented side. And as I said, I think Sanchez is going to do well this season. Fourth place, I think, will be Spurs. I think they'll get fourth. Fifth, I think, will be Arsenal. And sixth, I think, will be Chelsea. Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if these kind of four, shall we say, here finish there. I think that's going to be how it ends there. These four could chop and change. Seventh, Everton have done some good business. West Ham have done some good business, but they're West Ham, and a lot of the players West Ham have signed, Yarmolenko, Felipe Anderson, on their day they're brilliant, but it has to be on their day. Arnautovic as well. So I feel like, but Everton with Marco Silva coming in, I don't know, it's a tough one. I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't kind of get around there. I think, who am I going for here? Leicester have been hurt by losing Mahrez. That's a real tough one, seventh, isn't it? I don't think Bournemouth, I don't think Brighton, I don't think Burnley, I don't think Cardiff. I think Palace are going to have a pretty good season, but maybe that's too high for Palace. Fulham have signed some good players, but again, I think it's a bit too soon for them to finish seventh. Huddersfield, no. Leicester again. I think losing Mahrez is a big deal for them. Newcastle, they just haven't strengthened enough. Watford, no. Southampton, no. West Ham. I'm going to go Everton. West Ham. Everton, West Ham. And you know what? I'm going to go Crystal Palace in ninth. I think Palace are going to have a good season. I think their squad looks good on paper. I think we have a really solid partnership in defence. I think the way we could improve is if Max Meyer turns out to be an absolute gem. That could really push us up. If he doesn't turn out to be all that good, we still have a decent midfield. But some people have tipped us for relegation, and honestly, I can't for the life of me see that. Anybody who followed the Premier League last season, the difference in us when Hodgson came in was chalk and cheese. It was night and day. Like, people seem to forget. Like, we ended up finishing 11th last season after losing our first 7 games and not scoring a goal. That is phenomenal. And yeah, Wilf Zaha was a massive part in that. But guess what? He's still there. Benteke can't be as bad as he was last season. We have some other options if he is now. Sorloth settling in a bit more. Ayu's obviously just come in. Townsend still a very good player. I'm positive. I'm really positive about our season for the first time ever, which means we're going to get relegated probably. But hey, let's go down to the bottom, because who do I think is going to get relegated? Well, I think at the bottom of the table, a team who, in my opinion, have not strengthened enough. Southampton. I think Southampton could be going down this season. They were jammy to escape last season. Mark Hughes, he's been pretty quiet, hasn't he, pre-season? Southampton as a whole they have signed a lot of players, but I just have this feeling they're going to struggle. Like, their players they've signed, they're not exactly like earth-shattering. They paid like 13.5 million for Angus Gunn from Man City, which I don't know. I don't see that. Now, every year I say Bournemouth's going to go down. I'm not going to say they're going to go down this year, because they make me look like an idiot every year. I think. Who do I think? Listen, the teams I'd say it's out of would be Cardiff, Huddersfield, Newcastle. I think Newcastle did brilliantly last season, but I don't know how long Rafa can stay with Ashley in charge. I think Newcastle could have a meltdown. They've not done enough signings, and it going to go Newcastle in 19th because what I can see happening is getting through to October, November, them having a slow start, and just the situation with Rafa and Ashley just becoming like unfeasible. And if Rafa goes, Newcastle go. Yeah, that's my opinion. And then I'm going to go for Cardiff. They've strengthened okay, Cardiff, but I think like they're just not strong enough. I don't think for the Premier League yet. I could be wrong. And listen, I think I said in my preview, never bet against Neil Warnock, because he is a character. But I'm betting against him this time. So they're the three I think go down. The one who I think is going to be very close with is Huddersfield. I think they could escape again. Again, they've been fairly quiet in the transfer market in terms of like massive signings, but they have signed a lot of players and they're solid. So I think they could be okay. And it's Wagner's second season. I think he's got a plan to push on, you know. So I think they'll be okay. In 10th, who do I think could push up in 10th? I think potentially this is Leicester's kind of territory. Leicester, and I actually think weirdly like Burnley could be down here somewhere. I'm going to go 15th for Burnley. I feel like the Europa League is going to take a toll of them. I could be wrong because they could go out the Europa League. I think they're playing tonight in a game, but I'm thinking they're going to go through, and I don't think they've got a good enough, like a large enough squad to cope with that and the Premier League. I don't think they're going to get relegated or necessarily be near the relegation zone. I just think if they have a good run in the Europa League, that could take it out of them. So 16th then, I guess, would be Bournemouth. Yeah, again, I always think they're not good enough to stay up, and they always surprise me. So I think they'll stay up, and I think that's a good result for them. They really need to just get a bigger stadium to really push on, don't they, or some investment like that, because every year it seems to be getting harder and harder for them. So we still have two of the other promoted clubs coming in. So in 11th, you know, who do we go for? I think Fulham could be the surprise there, and I think Wolves could follow them straight afterwards. So 11th and 12th, Fulham, Wolves. Could be interesting. Could be interesting seasons for both those teams. I think they're both quite strong, and I think coming off the back, as we saw last season, the back of a successful campaign in the Championship can do wonders for you. You know, we saw that for Huddersfield. They had a great start, which ultimately saved them. Newcastle did as well, and I think that could be the bounce for Fulham and Wolves. Fulham have signed some quality players, Wolves as well. So you know, we'll see. So 13th, I mean, it's a toss-up. I'd go Brighton possibly, and then 14th Watford. So Man City, Liverpool, Man United, Tottenham, Arsenal, Chelsea, Everton, West Ham, Crystal Palace, Leicester, Fulham, Wolves, Brighton, Watford, Burnley, Bournemouth, Huddersfield, Cardiff, Newcastle, Southampton. Confirmed selection. There we go. There we go. That's my prediction. We'll have this in the video where it is. Let me know what you guys think. I wonder what the odds are I could get on that table. Like, would it be worth betting £1 on it or something? I don't know. But that's what we've got. It's a tough league, the Premier League. It really is. You know, you could argue from, I think, probably Palace down or even Everton down. You know, any of those sides could end up there, as they nearly did last season. I think the top six will stay the top six for now. I don't think Everton and West Ham have quite got enough to break into that yet, but we could see them improve. If out of the two, Everton have signed some good players, I think I'm revising my thoughts now. I think maybe West Ham could get above. I don't know. It's going to be tight between those two. We'll see. And I think the Fulham and Wolves will surprise us. I think Cardiff might struggle a little bit, but we'll see. And I think Burnley are not going to have as good a season as they did. Maybe Watford are a bit high there as well. We'll see. We'll see. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. So there's the fantasy football team again. I'm I'm so looking forward to this season. You can't imagine. I hope you guys are too. And I'll see you next time. And we'll see how we go, won't we? It's going to be a great season. See you soon. Bye bye.